Hello and welcome to the Data for Subscriptions podcast, where we explore and learn how to run better subscription businesses. I'm your host, Berat Bonyan, and today I have the pleasure of welcoming two guests to the show, Stefan and Michele, both joining us from Algolia. Welcome, guys.
Hey, I'm happy to be here. Thanks for having us.
Hey, thank you.
As always, for anybody tuning in live, you're welcome to add your comments and questions, and we'll make sure to pick them up along the way. Otherwise, we'll also make sure that there's time at the end. Today's topic is all about usage and how Algolia basically manages billable usage. So we're going to drill quite deep into that topic, which I look forward to. Before we do, guys, why don't we spend a few minutes introducing yourselves? And what I would love for you to share is how your journey has been, starting basically a few years back, working with any kind of billing or usage or subscription type initiatives, and what led you to Algolia and what you're doing today.
Sure. Well, I can go first. My name's Stefan Crespo-Laner. I've been with Algolia now for almost 2 years. My journey here has been anything but usual. I started out in hospitality tech, actually implementing SaaS product CRM systems internationally. Ended up in the world of e-commerce a few years back. That actually brought me to New York. And close to 2 years ago, ended up with Algolia in the billing and usage space. I've actually had the pleasure of working with Michele my whole time within Algolia. Certainly, it's been a very interesting space. Kind of keeping that mindset of being customer facing has always been a good kind of catapulting space for me to be able to keep up and kind of always mentalize, like, how do customers read and understand billing and usage, and how do the teams helping implement SaaS products help in that as well, and being able to keep up with the understanding.
Yeah, awesome.
Get it?
Yeah, on my side. So hey everyone. Michele, Leo. I've been working at Algolia as a software engineer for the past 3 years now. So I initially joined as a full stack engineer, working at the billing backend and dashboard as well. So the entire full stack thing. And then a year and a half later, I started working solely, like just working completely on the improving and redesigning Algolia's usage pipeline. So yeah, pretty exciting things. Same as Stefan, pretty a bumpy ride with amazing topics and amazing engineers as well. So that's one of the best things. And then from before Algolia, I was working for a French open source backend as a service project, which is pretty cool. He's based in Node.js and he's based in the sunny south of France. So that was pretty awesome. Yeah.
Fantastic, guys. Thank you. All right, let's talk Algolia. Let's introduce the company. I mean, we know that it's a software as a service tool for developers, but tell us a bit more about the company and the offering.
Sure. So Algolia is a robust search and discovery API platform designed to enhance user experience by delivering instant and accurate search results. So imagine users typing a query and seeing results update in real time. That's the kind of performance that we're offering. And the best part is we're known for ease of integration. So getting up and running is really quick, no heavy lifting for the actual engineers setting things up. They go to their website, they click set up, sign up for one of our introductory plans, and they're able to start utilizing the API within minutes. We positioned ourselves really to where it's become highly scalable and flexible, making it perfect for any use case where search functionality is crucial. Now, that does leave us with a lot of space where customers will use it a lot, some customers will use it less, which is really creating that space and opportunity for us to offer the different pricing plans that best meet the customer needs.
Got it. And why don't we give a quick overview of pricing? We'll get back to the details of it later on, but how does pricing look like at Algolia?
Yeah, so I mean, it's crucial to first understand that pricing, billing, and usage are individually complex areas. As such, within Algolia, we have these three branches. We have the pricing team, the billing team, as well as the usage team. Today, you can go to algolia.com, the pricing. We have three introductory plans. You have pay as you go. So you have our build plan, which is free. You have our pay as you go standard plan, and then you can enter some of the more committed and then talk to salespeople. But all plans are going to give you the best access to the features. And once you start using, really you get to decide what's your best journey and upgrade from there. I mean, pricing has evolved over the years. I think the last time I looked, we had around 94 active plans across 9 different generations. So really, it's just a matter of us evolving and scaling with the market.
So let's start by digging into billing. And what I would like for us to do is, why don't we explain the difference between pricing and billing? Because I think sometimes we quickly interchangeably talk about them as almost being the same thing. What, in your view, is the difference here?
Yeah, so billing does not always equal pricing. For instance, our build plan, that's pretty introductory where you utilize the features. There's a cap on the access you have once you reach a threshold that's established. When we start entering the world of pay as you go, then there's established quotas. So customers are able to start kind of burning past the introductory offered threshold and then start garnering some of that usage, which then leads into the billing. Pricing is really going to give us the template, the blueprint, if you will, of what access customers get. And once we start with the billing motion, that's where, based on how the customer is interacting, utilizing the product, if they decide to upgrade, then you have the complexity of the billing cycle. Okay, when was it free or build plan? And then now that it's transitioned into a pay-go, is that the new, then kind of like when the invoices get generated? Really, it's all about trying to create that transparency for the customers to understand what it is that they're utilizing, what it is that they're trying to actually make it visible for them, what the value is that their return on investment really is, where we're trying to make sure that there's that transparency. Pricing does give that template, but then billing is the executioner, and then as customers utilize it, the more it can expand in scope. And that's only for the pay-as-you-go motion. Then the sales-led contracts, those are special deals and negotiations that go with the sales team. They have that standardized starting point, but then the included quotas and thresholds increase dramatically, really depending on what the customer comes to an agreement with the salespeople on. And then there's more features and products that can be kind of accessed as they enter those higher yielding contracts.
And what about usage? Is all usage billable on your end?
So it's a great point. I've mentioned a little bit about the quotas. So the build plan is going to be our standard free tier. Once you hit the 100,000 search requests, for example, you stop being able to access that. So for the pay as you go, the minute you start burning past the 100,000 search requests, then you start actually garnering that usage, and we start measuring how much the product is being used, and then the invoices get generated accordingly. And then Michele, correct me if I'm wrong, but I do believe we've done some cleaning up in our usage pipelines, because we did have some usage that was not necessarily being billable, but it was being measured.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, we do. Yeah, so our systems evolve pretty quickly, and most of the times we start monitoring something that we think could be interesting, and then with time we say, okay, so this, we try this out, and then either makes this a product or push it aside and make something new. And we do that quite often. We move very fast. And just to answer that question, yeah, we did have a few products that and a few features that we monitor internally, but then they never got to be, instead of having them as a standalone, they actually went for free. Yeah, they're under some other products, and that's what we call virtual metrics. And then we could talk about that a bit later as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's always good to keep in mind 94 plants over the past few years definitely does leave room for us to kind of see where things have worked, where they haven't, and really it's just a reiterative process where we're constantly making sure that what's being offered is the best for the customer.
Now, clearly, as we'll get back to later on, I'm looking forward to, Michele, is that you're using usage as a means of adapting your offering, your pricing, which is embedded in your statement of 94 different pricing plans that you've developed over the last couple of years. Now, this is, I think, a very good example. This is a space that many companies are extremely interested in. This because not necessarily all usage is intended to be billed, because you could use this for other needs. One question, Stefan, before we leave this area around billing is, especially when it comes to sales-led pricing, this is an area which sometimes is challenging for companies, meaning that it's one thing to have a straightforward, tight process for what prices are, and you guys you quote, and then you just follow that. The sales-led, the challenge is constant adaptations and changes. Is that a challenge that you guys have faced, still facing, and also how you're tackling that?
Yeah, I think it's always important to kind of transparency, not only for the customer, but also internally in terms of communication. What plans are including what? So at Algolia, we have what we call the Pricing Ops Council, where we constantly meet between the go-to-market teams, the internal product, and myself included, part of the billing and usage team, to really kind of understand where we're trying to take the pricing in the coming year, coming months, as new products become available, then how are they becoming available downstream to existing customers and then potentially being grouped in future plans. Um, so I think it really just a matter of making sure that the go-to-market teams are always up to speed with roadmap items. What are the things that we're wanting to deliver, and what's the value to the customer, how they can then communicate that to the customers. And ultimately also part of billing system is really kind of being backward compatible. So as we're deploying these new features to future plans or existing current plans, we're trying to always see how can this become also available to existing customers on previous generation plans, where we're always trying to incentivize customers to upgrade, and that's where we then work with our growth team, where they come up with great initiatives like the premium trial features, where you can try the new and best features and products for 90 days, and then if it's great for you, then you kind of go through the motion of upgrading. Otherwise, you stay where you are. But it's trying to keep, it's really pricing, billing, and usage is a fine art, where trying to balance everything that's beneficial to the customer, and then how are sales, marketing, communicating that to the customers. So I think communication is the key.
Let's expand a little bit more on the billing complexity, because you already gave away some of the details, but you guys operate worldwide. I know you've gone through a rebranding exercise at the same time, but there's been offering development, pricing development. But why don't you share, how complex of a situation do you operate in?
Yep. So as I mentioned, we do have 94 odd plans out there generational wise. So really the biggest key is being backwards compatible, and then always providing the same level of access and support to the customers. When it comes to just the level of access and upgrade, downgrade flows, that's where it becomes complex, because as Michele alluded to, a lot of our plans have evolved over the years. So making sure that the path to the latest plan still gives you the same access to the products and features that you had previously, as well as the new products that are being offered at the new level plans. That's the beauty of being a SaaS product as well, where we're constantly giving incremental innovation to customers. But really, it's just a matter of balancing like the invoicing as it was before the email communications. When new billable metrics become available for new products or features, making sure that any existing communication, emails, or like the invoice template that gets generated is still working as expected and as seamlessly. So when we do create a new line level item, the customer just sees a brand new line at the invoice level, instead of having to try to understand where the new uptick in price comes from without it really being reflected. So there's a lot of fronts that we're constantly trying to make sure that there's that level of transparency with our customers from the billing side.
And if we circle back to pricing, as we already gave an overview on before, Stefan, let's go a little bit deeper on it. So walk us through what it's based on.
So for our pricing, we're really always trying to keep it scalable and flexible for the customers. So as the customer grows, we're going to be growing with them. The flexibility really is key. We understand that needs really do change and the market changes. So really, we want our customers to have the freedom to be able to scale their usage up or down based on the requirements of the given moment, giving them that ability to adapt to really what their product or their business is going through. Ultimately, fairness for me is the big thing. They'll always be able to pay for the value that they're receiving, ensuring that transparency in every transaction, no overpaying for unused resources or unclear kind of products or features. And then, as I mentioned, incremental innovation really comes down to it. We're wanting to constantly ship the new product and features to the customers without having them to go through a whole new sales cycle, without having to change plans. So really, once those features become available, if it is going to be a billable metric, we make sure that we enable it at the level they accept the terms of service and conditions, and then they're able to start utilizing the product, and then of course they'll be able to pay for it accordingly.
You mentioned the importance of communication before when we were speaking internally more from a go-to-market teams and so on. But when it comes to the customer side, have you faced challenges on the customer side in terms of understanding the pricing and the metrics and how it basically correlates with how much they use versus how much they pay and the tiers and the metrics? Or has that been straightforward for your customers?
At least since my time with Algolia, it's been very straightforward, and really my hat comes off to the billing and the usage team. Within our customer dashboards, we're making sure that the metric or kind of data point that they're trying to understand is as real time as possible. So for example, our charts and graphs are going to be connected to the usage API that's going to give them real-time view of what they're utilizing and where they're at with their plan. And then once the billing cycle closes, they're able to then understand and look back into their invoices and the charts and graphs at that time, what it is that they are paying for, how is kind of, if there's any misfires or bots out there like that traffic the site, they're able to work with their customer success management team, and then we're able to go in and make the adjustments needed to help, which is also one of the benefits of having the homegrown system. We kind of control how the billing is reflected based on the kind of usage being generated by the customer. So no issues yet, and we're wanting to keep it that way.
No, I think it's great because one of the main advantages to usage-based billing is that, I mean, you mentioned fairness, transparency. Sometimes I talk about empowering the customer, but empowering the customer builds on the final statement that you made, is that as a customer, you're able to continuously real-time monitor your consumption and how much that has amounted to in cost, so to say, for you as a customer. That's great. Thank you.
Sure thing.
Now let's move over to the technical side. Michele, we've been patiently waiting for you to join the conversation. So let's talk usage-based. It's been at the center of our discussion so far. And I guess my opening question to you is, even though it's been alluded to in our discussion and we've talked about many other benefits, walk us through the why.
Yeah, that is a good question. Yeah, we do think of measuring usage as Stefan said, is of paramount importance for us. And actually, we think for any software as a service, actually, it is definitely critical for us at Algolia. So just to give you a rough idea, let's say in our search product, traffic on itself. So we handle about around 7 billion total successful API operations per day. That comes up for about 2.5 trillion per year. Then when it comes to search requests specifically, we're talking about 5 billion per day. That gives us a proud estimate of about 1.8 trillion search requests per year. So it actually gets us up there with the the most used search engine in the world, a second. So that's pretty great for us being B2C, B2B. And then when you think about it, every single one of those operations our customers make and their customers make, they generate quite a bit of interesting information that we call just metadata. We can call that, and then we can later transform that metadata into very interesting metrics, and that's what we do in the user pipeline. So we have built the user pipeline from the scratch, from the ground up. So it does actually provide us with the flexibility we need to ultimately bring maximum value to a customers fast. Actually, so I think that's the why.
And how do you work with, or explain to us the process of how you transform this raw data into the metrics? Stefan, you mentioned, and you alluded to some of the metrics in the customer dashboard. Can you walk us through that process, Michele?
Yeah. Actually, what we do is like we have a pipeline, and at the beginning of the pipeline, transforming data, random data metrics into metrics is very interesting. What we do on our side is we design a project and a system that has three parts. So the first part is the ingestion part. So we have built a custom collection system that handles consuming large amounts of data and effectively inserting it into BigQuery with very little latency, which is very important for us. So to give you an idea on the data there, we have, for example, if we take 90 days of raw data, we can collect from GCS from like files around 1 billion batch files. Translating that into BigQuery will be something around 1.2 trillion rows, which is a quite interesting size for a database. So for a total like 810 terabytes of structured logical bytes. And then after we have all that data in our database, which is a clustered and partitioned database, which is BigQuery, and we actually put a lot of effort into bringing it up to making it fast with the right options, etc. Then we have a processing cluster. So on a specific job scheduling, we execute queries and generate about 100 metrics right now. And we do that both in hourly and in daily aggregations at the same time. We do that multiple times per day. And then we store those results into big table for later exposure and consumption on an API and other things.
So we've talked quite a lot about the, let's call it the monetization end of using usage. Can you share a little bit more about how you potentially use this usage data internally, for example, for product development or customer experience improvement?
Yeah, definitely. Internally, we use usage metrics as the backbone for many critical services. So, for example, our billing system processes main internal customer. Yeah. So, invoicing. So, the metrics, you can see them as the raw values in our billing pricing and creation calculations. That's like our main internal customer is the billing system on itself. But we also use usage for product and feature adoption as well on those metrics. So, teams can fine tune for a specific product strategy and things like that. And then at a higher level, we also use usage metrics. You can think of it as business intelligence, data analysis, and yeah, some many other things. That's the internal part of it. But when it comes to our customers, usage metrics are the key in helping them understand the functioning of their apps, help them clarify why, as we already said, why they getting billed a certain amount. So that helps a lot. All of it through a fast and reliable public usage API, dashboard, and dashboard graphs. And yeah, ultimately ensuring we can provide them with top-notch support whenever necessary as well. So that's how we use usage metrics in our point of view and in our systems right now.
The dashboards or the analytics tool for on the product side to basically learn and monitor and learn from the usage data, is that something that you've custom built, or is there a specific tool that you use for it to feed the usage data into?
Yes. Yeah. Interestingly, we actually do a is a very complex system that we use to help us. We need a lot of flexibility and speed, so we do have multiple different ingestion pipelines that help internal products, build their things and understand how their products work. So usage is just one piece of that puzzle of this is the type of information we calculate. This is how some customers use that tool, those tools and features. But internal teams also do other type of monitorings that are more in correlated to the products. They're more into inside of their own system. So they use our pipeline and our metrics, but they also have internal metrics on their side to get even closer stats, and that helps them understand even better the actual monitoring of their features. Actually, yeah, they don't only use usage.
Got it. This is one source, and you have that competence within your product team basically to kind of handle the several sources. Got it. Got it. One of the questions I'm curious about is, I mean, for you guys, it's quite clear that usage makes all the sense for why you should use it, and you're also quite mature in your approach. You did mention in your statement that this is a pricing and an offering model that basically any software as a service company should consider. Well, my question is, do you see, given the experience that you have, situations where usage would not make sense? Have you, for example, experienced questions where you feel, well, usage-based is not necessarily the right approach? Have you experienced initiatives on your end, perhaps?
Yeah, we can give a two-side answer. You can go ahead, Stefan, with strategy part, and then give you a bit more information on the usage side.
Yeah, I think it comes down to strategy. So we have some new features that are done instead of it being an actual one-to-one in terms of usage. So like we've mentioned, search requests, for instance, the more you use it, the more you'll generate, and there's like a fixed cost to the bundles or kind of like usage you're burning through. There are other features that we have internally, like dynamic re-ranking, customization, the personalization. There's some of those products that are more of like bundled into the actual plan, and those are then managed at the plan that you're entering, whether it's like the build, the pay-as-you-go, or sales-led contracts. Those costs are amortized within the discussions that are being held within sales or at the bundle of the product. But realistically, yeah, we've identified that the search request records, and then for those who activated the recommend product, generating the usage and measuring and billing on that is the most effective way for those products. I think it's always going to be up to the pricing brainchild of, hey, do we make this a billable metric? And of course, there's hypothesis phase, right? When you're creating the new billable metrics, we do kind of pressure test it. We do the analysis of, hey, do we want to make this a billable metric? Does it make sense? How can we validate that when we're in the pilot phase? Do we pressure test as well with the customers? Do we see what they're gauging, what the engagement is in terms of should this be billable? And then the decisions are made from there between the product or feature team and the pricing. From the billing and usage side, we're more of the executioners. We're just the enablers. They tell us, hey, make this a billable metric, then we go from there. But yeah, we're always trying to make sure that we enable and are not blockers. Of course, we're involved in the conversations early enough so that if it is something that needs to be built out, it makes sense. And if so, then what kind of timeline it takes for us to make it happen. Otherwise, yeah, trying to make it as flexible as possible for the internal product teams to deploy is key.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's exactly what I had in mind. The only way we can be up to speed with how Algolia moves and our products are coming up is by being ready, is by having those metrics already under like we already looking at them from the get-go. And then if pricing makes a choice and billing starts doing it, then on the usage side, we'll be ready for that before even they want to do it. So that's how we do it fast. So yeah, calculating and recording usage is very important. As we said, is vital. And then at the pricing and billing level, if you choose to use it, then you better have it already so you can get to market very quickly.
Got it. I think, in summary, my take listening to you guys is one is based on a business strategy and a pricing strategy factor. Stefan, is what you're saying. The other one is that you try to learn from customers' behaviors and try to figure out and match those two, because you might want to have a drive or a strategy that you want to bill per usage, but you also try to correlate that would that work for the customer based on the behavior and the patterns they have. Got it. Okay. Let's take a question that has come in. I think it could be a good timing for that given this discussion. Question is from Douglas Zimmer. His question is, how are you approaching the activation of new billable features? And there's a little bit more details to it, so I'll just read it out for us. He's assuming that you're rolling out new features all the time. Are these automatically available for customer use at predetermined price? Or are these features dependent on an embedded product-led growth checkout process?
Yep, for the rollout, like most companies out there, we do the pilot phase, then we have the beta, public beta, and then after that, deployment to production, and then being general availability. It really does depend on the type of product or feature that we're trying to roll out in terms of how it becomes available. So of course, our customer success management team is involved in identifying key customers that might benefit from said feature or product. They work with the product team and then kind of enter that cycle of pilot, beta, GA to analyze and understand how the product or feature will benefit the customer. We're always wanting that aspect of transparency. So terms of service are always going to be key. And that's where some of the billing team function as well in terms of embedding that within the platform. So let's say you go to the dashboard, you log in. After we enable the feature product for you, a pop-up message will come up. You accept to the terms of service for that specific feature. And once you accept that, then you're able to start accessing the product/feature. If it's something, of course, for general availability, once it's deployed, if it's going to be rolled out to all existing customers, that same pop-up message comes up. And depending if it's going to be billable metric based on the usage, then we'll be able to start capturing how that usage is being leveraged and then invoice accordingly at the end of that cycle. And actually, one of our new products being rolled out to products or pay-as-you-go motion is going to be the self-service crawler. We've had this product for a bit in-house. It's mostly been enabled and kind of sold to sales-led customers. But this one is now going to be actively being rolled out over the coming months to anybody that's on a pay-go plan. They'll be able to accept the terms of service, and there's going to be a starting base point of a quota threshold that's included. Once they pass that, then they start generating a fixed price per the usage being used. So it's going to be a unit price, not a fixed price. But yeah, the more you use it, the more you pay for it. And it's always about generating that value for the customer.
You want to add any perspectives there, Michele, from your end?
Yeah, again, that connects perfectly what we already said. Actually, I would add that it is for us a main business driver, isn't it? Like we want to design, we want to have systems that are flexible enough, that empowering our teams to quickly do stuff, do their things, do their work and their job, so quickly collect and calculate metrics and stuff like that. So it kind of makes sense to being ready, being fast. That's the way of going, and that is what allows us to be able to answer that question that way. It is kind of straightforward for us. It's a straightforward system, and even though it's a complex way of doing things, it works very well for us.
All right, guys, we're going to start wrapping up. One of the questions I have for you in this final section is, knowing what you know today, what would you have done, say, 3 years back, if you could roll back time?
When it comes to strategizing, I think being more open to multi-product. So our bread and butter is the search, which is great, But now, as we've mentioned or alluded to, we have Recommend, we have Crawler coming down the pipeline, and there are many more other products that are internally being entered into the pilot and GA or beta and public beta phases. So really, I think having like a being more receptive to having more multi-product offerings in the past would have set us up. We would be more advanced down the line than where we are today. And we've been very flexible and adaptive with the changes that have come our way over the last few years, which is great. And that's partly due to our homegrown system for the billing as well as the usage process. But I think, yeah, it might be a different game or kind of playing field that we would be in today had we started thinking about that more 3 years ago. Um, I think
Yeah.
from the pipeline side of things, Michaela, I'm sure there's tons of things that you can talk to, but yeah, I'll let you share some thoughts on that.
Yeah, that is something we actually thought about. No, we thought about at the beginning where we talk about POC, trying new things up, and looking at the problems. We actually go ahead and deeply understand the issues we have, and then we go and try to fix them by creating POCs and stuff to make sure we have the right design. So yeah, I will say that 3 years ago we would have defined a contract as soon as you can. If someone is listening to these podcasts, like define these contracts as soon as you can and make that a priority. So system contracts. So yeah, so create definition. What is an usage event? What information should it contain? What is the minimum necessary for usage processing? Some teams know about that. So this way you're set up from the get-go just to handle, as Stefan said, multiple products and services. Even though even you at the beginning going for one product, having billing, pricing, and usage systems that are actually from the get-go very generic or as much as you can, that is a very important key for us.
I take it, guys, that this also says something about that you've had a journey. Stefan, your point is about having the confidence level to do more earlier, while in your case it seems like you've tested, you've evolved your capabilities, and over that time confidence has increased, and now you're entering with more products. We can use your term multi-product. I think your point, Mikhail, is a great one, meaning that the specificness and the definition of, because I think this is where it is a challenge for many companies that are considering that lack of definition. We have another question that I want to make sure that we also take before we round off. This question is from Mitali. She's asking, since you have a homegrown solution to manage billable usage, do you see any high support maintenance cost challenges?
Yeah, I can speak from the technical side of things. Yeah, managing billable usage is a very interesting problem. Um, you need things to go fast. You need things to be stored for a long time, for longer and longer sometimes. So we just talk about 90 days data, but at Algolia we go much further than that. So yeah, if you want to use usage for billing, then you already have to use usage for understanding your products, and that takes more time and money. Actually, is more expensive. So yeah, managing those type of systems is extremely important. So I would say, if you can, think about managed services into consideration instead of building everything from scratch. For example, in our case, we do build around services like PubSub, BigQuery, Bigtable, and they allow us to find good balance between performance, maintenance, and that's how we do our pricing optimization when it comes to handling billable usage, at least in the usage part of things.
Stefan, you want to add to that?
Yeah, I mean, from the strategy part, I think it's a good cost to have. Definitely also having a hammered out process does kind of reduce the need for the high support. So as we are entering or deploying these new features, we have a whole new process that has been kind of being hammered out over the last year to kind of include all of the necessary teams in the conversation at the beginning of or the conception of a new product potentially going to market to leverage and start kind of identifying all of the things that really need to be thought of before we can say, hey, we're ready to go live. And then all of these things pop up where legal says you can't do this or support says we can't handle that. So really, it's a matter of having that conversation and process in place, and then having the right people included in those conversations, whether you create a small task force for the product or feature being rolled out, and then making sure that it's communicated downstream to the respective go-to-market teams to make sure that then it's put in front of customers.
All right, and my final question is a more of a forward-looking one. So we've talked about what you would have done differently. We've talked about where you stand as a business today. Let's look forward 18 months, Stefan and Michele. What can we look forward to from Algolia? What will happen from a usage-based pricing model and billing aspect?
Yeah, from the strategizing part, definitely more products being deployed, more features being built upon the existing products and then rolled out. I think, as I mentioned, we have a process that's being hammered out and in pretty good shape. I'd say it's close to 100% in terms of success rate from conception to deployment. So really making sure that the teams are set up for success. And then in terms of the billable usage side of things, making sure that the process is understood by the product teams so that they can get on the pipeline when they are, whether they're even entering a hypothesis phase. We do want to have the metrics around how that product is being used. And then if it's something that the company deems not necessary to enter the billable usage once it's deployed to general access for the customers, then we can remove that from the pipeline. It's always going to be a reiterative process, but I think it's key to kind of have the option and the space to explore. So yeah, we'll continue exploring and kind of making things available as they come.
Michele, from the technical side?
Yeah, on the technical side, yeah, Algolia is always building very interesting stuff. We're actually very picky in what we publicly say, let's say, what we publicly push out there, because we want the greatest quality for our customers, for sure. And our systems are always evolving. So yeah, when in the user side, we've been working for the last year in the new process, a new pipeline that actually allow us to do multiple things, and it's mostly looking for stability and flexibility, so we can handle very quickly new products and features coming up very soon.
Yeah, and as I mentioned, crawler is coming in the coming months. So if you're on our PayGo plans or build, make sure you click on the terms of service and accept it once it's rolled out, so you can test it out.
With that, thank you very much, guys, for the conversation. I really appreciate it. And thank you to everybody tuning in.
Thank you, Vedad, and everyone. It's great chatting.
Thank you.
Bye.